Alright, number one big news story of the week. The House voted on an Obamacare repeal on Thursday and okayed the bill to move up and on to the Senate by a 4-vote win. Here is a live look at the Democrat response for anyone who missed it. Now let's be real here. Congress doesn't learn from its own mistakes, so of course the bill was only finalized Wednesday night. So just like Obamacare, it went to a vote and no one knew it was in it.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
I mean, there was a last-minute amendment to include an additional $8 billion to fund state high-risk pools, because that's something that should be done at the last minute, won over the last few lawmakers who were complaining about how the bill would affect those with pre-existing conditions, and then through a series of backroom deals, the bill was rushed to a vote before the Congressional Budget Office could even take a look and figure out if that extra $8 billion is even doable. Meaning it was put to a vote before anyone even knew what the thing would cost. In an effort to win people over, Paul Ryan released a bulleted list of verified effects of the bill, but he can't tell anyone who exactly verified the list, and no one's really been allowed to look at it, so I guess it was just verified by Paul Ryan land? Even Trump didn't know what was in the damn thing when asked by John Dickerson at CBS, and he could only tell Bloomberg that the bill wasn't even in its final form. I guess that's why they scheduled the vote for fuck it o'clock. And for the record, no, in fact, the American Health Care Act does not make rape, domestic violence, or sexual assault a pre-existing condition. Nothing in the bill actually even addresses rape or sexual assault. Seriously, pull up the bill right now on congress.gov and do a little Control F. The only thing that comes up is to say that the government won't fund abortions unless the pregnancy is from rape or incest. Domestic violence turns up nothing, and neither does sexual assault. So no, they're not on some magical list that means survivors won't get insurance. And actually, all but 6 states have laws against listing rape, sexual assault, and domestic violence as a pre-existing condition. Those 6 states could hypothetically do it, but that doesn't mean that they will. In 2009, PolitiFact decided to investigate that very possibility and couldn't find any evidence of such a practice actually happening. Yes, states can apply for special opt-out permission under very limited circumstances, but also need to set up special insurance pools if they do opt out. And do you honestly think any state is going to go through that much red tape? And if that's still not enough to convince you that half the population won't die just because the House just passed a bill, at least consider the fact that the Senate also needs to pass the bill, and that there are already several senators saying they want to overhaul it and rewrite half of it. So everyone that's worrying about this bill and are Facebooking and tweeting that they might as well just go and die need to calm the F down, read the bill, and review Schoolhouse Rock's episode about how a bill becomes a law. Anyway, are you guys sick of hearing about AntiFa yet? The new thing is that now AntiFa is talking about wanting guns and combat training to crush all the dirty fascists. Similarly, the John Brown Gun Club got sick and tired of people suggesting they weren't toting real guns and decided to film a range video that shows people firing scoped rifles at targets that are only a few yards away, and most of them miss. About 1,000 people gathered at a Portland park for a May Day rally and march on Monday, but as per usual, communists were communists. And while Buddhist peace groups and various other causes paraded around the park for their cause du jour, AntiFa showed up with burning flags and giant papier-mâché spiders? That's really creepy. Prior to the event, the Anarchist Student Union, an anarcho-communist group, of course, announced their plans to also attend the event and to respect the organizers and attendees, quote, to a point. The march, which was scheduled for 3:30 p.m., was peaceful for approximately half an hour before AntiFa started breaking windows, throwing rocks, and shooting lead balls with slingshots. And by 4:45, they were starting bonfires in the streets and dismantling parking signs. While targets of the riot's violence did include a couple of city and federal buildings, the violence was mostly aimed at Brooks Brothers, Target, J. Crew, an art gallery, the Nines Hotel, and a bike rental kiosk, because we all know that bicycles are the vehicles of fascism. In a Facebook post, the organizers of the march blamed the police for the riot, saying, quote, "The Portland police chose to violently escalate a peaceful march." The post continued, "There will be a lot of articles about the march turning violent, but make no mistake, the Portland Police Bureau attacked a permitted march whose only goal was to keep moving along its planned route because some noisemakers and name-calling were enough of an excuse for them to use their large surplus of explosives and chemical weapons against those who had committed to rise, resist, and unite against fascism and capitalism. But have no fear, Berkeley is planning to deal with AntiFa violence by setting up areas for laughter yoga, quiet conversations, and fencing with sponge noodles." Other ideas thrown around in an email chain between city officials include blowing bubbles, square dancing, and cookies with peace symbols. Yeah! The emails also suggested that officials don't knock Black Bloc because most of them are A-OK. Says the city with all the broken windows and college campuses being set on fire. And now, in honor of AntiFa and Liberty Hangout's Communism Awareness Month, I'd like to take a few moments to provide a comprehensive list of all the places where communism has worked, bringing peace and prosperity to its people. Federal hearings are afoot due to a lawsuit filed against the DNC on behalf of Bernie Sanders and his supporters after claims that the DNC had rigged the primaries against him. And it's not like that isn't what happened. It was all over Hillary Clinton's leaked emails. Last week, the transcript from the most recent hearing was released, and it's got all kinds of gems in it that really aren't news to anyone who supported Ron Paul in 2012. For example, that the people picking the candidates feel that neutrality is only a discretionary rule, and that the DNC didn't need to adopt it to begin with. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bernie Sanders, aka Jane Sanders, is part of an FBI and Department of Justice investigation. The investigation has been going on for more than a year, but only just now came to light through some emails obtained through a public records request. The subject of the investigation is Burlington College, or more specifically, financial fraud that occurred while Jane Sanders was in charge of Burlington College. The college closed its doors abruptly last May, a day before the students' graduation, due to what they called the crushing weight of debt the school accrued after purchasing the lakefront property the campus sits on. Sanders was president of the college from 2004 to 2011, and in 2010 there was a sketchy land deal that involved nearly $7 million of tax-exempt bonds and a bank application that grossly overstated the actual amount of donations the school had received. Sanders told the bank that the school had received $2.6 million in donations, but in fact only got $676,000. People's Bank agreed to the whole shindig, but only if the school could secure just over $2.2 million in grants and donations. So naturally, Sanders claimed to already have the aforementioned $2.6 million lined up and promised that many more donations were on the way. Obviously, the school defaulted on its loans and declined into financial ruin. Only 1 year after the land purchase, Sanders resigned suddenly and collected a $200,000 severance package. Unfortunately for Sanders, when a school closes, state law requires that the school or the state keep the academic records in case students need transcripts or proof of graduation. The school opted for the state to do it, and the state found the records in such chaotic disarray that they just took everything with them. So that meant that the state had all this fraud evidence. Not a good choice. Records also suggest that when lawyers began probing into the fraud case, Agency of Education lawyers scrambled to either hand off the records or destroy them. Finally, another ridiculous story out of a college this week. Colgate University in New York found itself in a dangerous situation because of a kid with a glue gun. University officials warned students and the public of a potentially dangerous situation after receiving reports of someone walking around campus, quote, while carrying what witnesses believed was a weapon. University officials told everyone to leave the campus center, tweeting that there was, in fact, an armed person in the building, and put everyone else in lockdown with a shelter-in-place order from 8 p.m. until 1 in the morning. Police searched the entire campus until they found a guy using a glue gun for an art project and determined that he was, in fact, the armed suspect. That concludes your Liberty-related news for the week. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and throw me some upvotes if you're over on VidMe. And if you really like my videos and want to help me spread the message of liberty, you can also help me by supporting me on Patreon. Until next week, thanks for watching and helping to keep the message of liberty live.